Geeks and Geekettes, as promised, another episode of Whatcha Readin, where I talk about what I've been reading from the perspective of a professional writer, if that's of any interest to you. People ask me all the time, what is it, what have you been reading? And so that's what this is. Oh, God, I was going to start over again, but I just don't feel like it. Okay, I've been reading this epic series. It's originally published in France, but it's out in English from Humanoids, and there's 4 or 5 volumes. But these are like the core stories of this awesome series of books they're kind of Michael Crichton in feel. They deal a lot with cryptozoology and xenobiology and things like that. And they concern a mysterious character called the Centenarian of the Carpathians. And this guy's thing is he's 100 years old, and he goes searching the world for mythic creatures like the Yeti and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. But this particular series that I'm reading right now, it's in 2 volumes. I think it was like 12 comic albums when it was published in France. And it's about a search for megalodons, the prehistoric ancestor of the great white shark, which, theoretically could still be out there somewhere in the deeps of the Pacific. And this story, takes that as fact. So you've got what starts out as this huge, shark adventure story along the lines of the recent Megalodon movie with Jason Statham. But it goes beyond that to exploration of a lost city on the floor, on the ocean floor, and the discovery of the first lost city leads to the discovery of others and the mysteries behind them, which I won't spoil for you. But it's, as you can see, beautifully drawn, terrific eye candy, a cast of really engaging characters. The action is amazing, and the reveals are terrific. And if you get both volumes, it's practically 500 pages when you're done, and it's a true epic, a true saga, and it's got a lot of stuff that's like shocking, not appalling or revoltingly shocking, but some real story twists that make you wake up and realize the stakes are huge in this story for these characters, and a lot of amazing technical stuff. The comparison to Crichton is, to my mind, the nearest thing I can think of is this story very much is like a Michael Crichton story. It's science fiction based in science fact, and takes place in our time period, in our contemporary. But highly recommend it from Humanoids if you like a good adventure story that's a little bit thought provoking. I suggest you pick it up. Carthargo. I read a book on Billy Wilder. I rewatched a few Wilder movies recently, and thought I want to know more about this guy. I knew a little bit from reading here and there, but I wanted to know more. And Billy Wilder was a screenwriter and a film director. He was an expatriate, became an American. He came from Germany, like so many filmmakers did in the 1930s, to escape what was going on in Germany at the time. And lucky guy, he got to Paris the day after the Reichstag fire. So he largely left Germany because he heard that the film company that he was working for at the time was being forced by the government to fire all of its Jewish creators. So he thought, well, there's no more work for me here. And he luckily escaped. The rest of his family died at Auschwitz. So he was left alone in the world by what happened during the Third Reich. And he did a little filmmaking in France, made a film that got the notice of one of the Hollywood studios, and they brought him over here and put him to work, even though his English wasn't very good. And but while his English didn't improve a whole lot over the years, that was actually a boon, because the way he looked at American English, the way he looked at our language, the way he looked at our country as an outsider was a tremendous edge for him. And he brought a lot of his own personality, a more European feel to films, and he truly is. I mean, they always say that this filmmaker or that filmmaker was influential. Billy Wilder was enormously influential in the way he approached filmmaking, and also the way he was always pushing the envelope. I've never heard of a director who was always in as much trouble with the censors as Billy Wilder. It's like every project he worked on, the censors climbed all over. Even when he made a Bing Crosby musical, which he thought, well, at least this one I'm not going to have a problem with the censors, and he did. So it's like they were gunning for him. But he was always pushing the envelope, always creating works that were funny. They were earnestly made, often cynical, and he loved America. Obviously, this country gave him an enormous opportunity, but he didn't look at America with blinders. He used the United States as a backdrop for most of his stories, and a lot of his stories involved human failings. Greed, lust, corruption, and he thought that America was a great tableau for that, and it kind of got him in trouble in the 50s when some critics said that he was anti-American, which he wasn't. He was just taking a unvarnished view of American society, and it doesn't hurt to have someone be constructively critical. But even in his darkest stories, you see a love for American culture, a love for American people. Now, I don't like all of his movies. It's really weird. Some of his movies I really don't like, and then some of the other movies I really do like. And I guess that's the mark of a creative genius, maybe, because unlike other directors like John Ford or Howard Hawks, where I love everything they did, I'm divided on Billy Wilder. And I think that's because he was always pushing the envelope. And sometimes, even he admitted he pushed it too hard. But I'm not a fan of his movies with Audrey Hepburn. You had this young ingenue actress, and they just made one movie after another, teaming her with a male lead who was too old for her. It was May December romance thing. And it was kind of like her own subgenre. And I always found it disturbing. Because, here's, young, innocent, gammon-faced Audrey Hepburn, and we're supposed to believe that, she's in love with, Gary Cooper or Humphrey Bogart or William Holden, men literally old enough to be her father, in Bogart's case, old enough to be her grandfather. I always found it off-putting. But, what are you going to do? Stalag 17 is another Billy Wilder movie, and it's beloved and everybody likes it. I don't like it. I find the humor. He was always able to blend humor into his story seamlessly, so the humor was part of the story. And I find the humor in Stalag 17 to be unwelcome, and in some cases inappropriate. People complain about Hogan's Heroes all the time, but Stalag 17 to me was far more offensive in its treatment of prisoners of war in World War II. It's odd for a guy who escaped the horrors of Nazi Germany to make a movie that takes this subject a little too lightly. The moments of humor and the moments of drama don't mesh to me. It's like two different movies, and I find it jarring. Some Like It Hot is a movie that is, it was like the standard of comedy for so long, and it has not aged well. It seems too, it seems forced now, where I guess it was edgy in its day. It's lost the edge. My least favorite movie of his is Irma la Douce. Which is unusual, or not unusual, but ironic, at least for me, because it was his most commercially successful movie. And I think it's because, once again, he was pushing the envelope. The United States wasn't used to seeing movies centered around prostitution, and I guess it made a lot of money because, people with their prurient interest in prostitution went to see the movie. This movie is long, boring. It's a really tedious farce that just doesn't work on any level. I mean, you just keep praying the movie will end. It's just awkward and not good. So those are his main movies I don't like. Now, for his movies I do like, Five Graves to Cairo was his second effort at directing. It's a great thriller set in North Africa with a British soldier forced to pretend to be a French waiter in a fly speck of a little town in North Africa when the Africa Corps shows up. And not only does the Africa Corps show up, but Rommel shows up, General Rommel, as played by the irreplaceable Erich von Stroheim. And it's a really good thriller with high stakes and a downer ending. And I don't want to spoil things, but very, very clever espionage, World War II espionage story that I highly recommend. Double Indemnity. This is the movie. It's based on a James M. Cain novel. This is the movie that is seen officially as the first film noir movie. Wilder wasn't aware that he's creating a new genre for American film, but he did by shooting primarily on real locations, the use of lighting, and of course a storyline about two people who are brought together romantically by murder. And it's his first movie where he really takes a look at greed, a theme that will reoccur over and over and over again in Wilder films. And it's just a terrific movie on so many levels. Edward G. Robinson is fantastic in it. Fred MacMurray did not want to make this movie because he's a louse. He's a heel in this flick, and he never played a character like that before. And he was worried it would hurt his screen image with the public, because he always played the affable, friendly, easily likable guy. And Wilder explained to him, that's exactly what I want. I want that character you play in all the other movies, but I want to use those abilities of that character to be liked and turn them to the dark. Barbara Stanwyck as well did not want to be in this movie because she felt it would hurt her screen image, but it didn't. It expanded her range and brought her a whole new area of acting to be in, because she went on from this to make any number of what they used to call women's movies, and also film noir, in which she got to play darker, more nuanced, more intense, less likable characters who, though they were unlikable, were riveting on the screen, and no one did it better than Barbara Stanwyck. So highly recommend Double Indemnity. Another film dealing with greed and greed for money, greed for fame, is Ace in the Hole. Once again, Kirk Douglas, playing against type, is an utter heel as a newspaper reporter who covers a man trapped alone in a mine, and he makes this guy trapped in the mine is his exclusive story, and he turns it into a national event where everybody's watching the story, everybody's in suspense. And he cruelly delays the rescue of this guy trapped in the mine so that he can keep the story going. This movie was lambasted when it came out because the American news media hated it because of the portrayal of one of their own as just a creep, an opportunistic creep. But and they did everything they could to try to kill this movie at the box office, and they succeeded. The film did not make money, but in its theatrical run, but over time, being shown on television was recognized as a classic. And it is. It is an incredibly engrossing film. It's darkly humorous in spots, and then simply horrifying as, Kirk Douglas just descends into this cesspool of abuse and greed and just plain nastiness. 1, 2, 3 is at Rarity. It's a Cold War comedy with James Cagney. It's James Cagney in his last leading role. He plays the executive of a Coca-Cola company in Berlin, the divided Berlin, and it's no one else could have played this role but Cagney. The role was written for Cagney. He's at his best. He's at his absolute best in his last leading role, and it's very funny and very fast paced. And very much of its time period. A lot of the jokes might fall flat on modern audiences because there's a lot of topical references in the film, but it moves at such a clip and the gags come so fast. It really works as one of Billy Wilder's better farce movies because the motivations are clear, the stakes are high, it's got a great storyline, and it's just a lot of fun. And Cagney carries the movie on his back. Just does a tremendous acting job. Probably my favorite Wilder film is The Fortune Cookie, which I rewatched just before doing this video. And it's the first teaming of Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. Again, Wilder wrote this role with Matthau in mind. Matthau was a character actor who had never really gotten any lead roles, and this was his first big role in a movie. And it's about, it started when Billy Wilder was watching an American football game in which one of the players went out of bounds and ended up accidentally tackling a TV cameraman. And Billy Wilder turned to whoever was in the room with him. I think it was his co-writer, I.A.L. Diamond. And he said, I want to make a movie about that. I want to make a movie about what happens next. And the TV cameraman has to be Jack Lemmon. And they went on from there to make this movie about this football, this TV cameraman who gets tackled. And then with the help of his brother-in-law, who's a ambulance chasing lawyer, they try to defraud the insurance company out of $1 million by having Jack Lemmon fake injuries worse than what his injuries were. But Lemmon is brought to a moral quandary because his actions, his fakery, is hurting the career of the football player who tackled him. Who turns out to be this really nice guy who, he feels terrible about what's happened, and his guilt over what he thinks is crippling, his guilt over crippling the Jack Lemmon character for life, leads him into depression and drinking, and Lemmon feels, responsible for that because he is. But it's a really funny movie and beautifully photographed in black and white. And tremendous performance. It's Walter Matthau's movie. He steals the movie from everybody. And not hard to see why he became a big star following this flick. But again, one of my favorites, The Fortune Cookie. So, Wilder went on to make, other movies, not so memorable. I think after The Fortune Cookie, it's pretty much downhill. The stuff's watchable. His remake of Front Page, I don't like it. And he kind of ends his career in the 80s, even though he lived into the 2000s. But again, if you ever get to check out anything that he either wrote, he wrote Ninotchka, Ball of Fire. I mean, he did some tremendous screenwriting before turning to directing. Just an amazing talent. And the book is good too. The book is good. Maybe a little too adoring of Billy Wilder. And skips some interesting parts of Wilder's life that I think should have been included. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed it, learning a little bit more about this great director. Hey, Siege of the Black Citadel. You can get it on Amazon. You can order it direct from Archaven. I'll put the links below the video. It's the first of 3 planned novels about the Cimmerian that I am writing. This one is out. I've already completed the second one. I was just looking at cover roughs the other day for the second one, and I'm about halfway through the third one. So if you like Conan, I suggest you check it out, because I really sweated here. I tried to write as close to Howard as I could, and you tell me whether I succeeded or not. So, but I had a whole lot of fun doing it, and I'm continuing to have fun on the third novel. So anyway, that's it. That's what I've been reading. I'll try to get back next week with more, and I'll see you all down the road.